In this video, I will talk about where we are in the disclosure process, what we can look forward to in the coming year 2026, as well as new UFO whistleblowers coming forward and new UFO hearings taking place in the near future.
All these military members, men and women who have served their country and have seen something strange, something that's not supposed to exist, need a voice. And the American people and the people of the entire world need to know that this is real, that reality is classified, that the world is more mysterious and more enchanted and more beautiful than we have been told to believe. And that's what this is about. Let people speak the truth, right? Let us make our own decisions.
The nature of UFO intelligence is that it is clandestine. It operates in a way in which, in the public domain, we are devoid of smoking gun, scientific, epistemological proof that we are not alone. And the U.S. government is exploiting that dynamic, which arguably makes it less ethical than if they were lying about something that everyone could see. And it comes down to classification of reality. It would be like there being an island in the Pacific that has undocumented animal species and governments deciding that the rest of the world should not know about it, regardless of how it impacts our understanding of our world and our universe. And so the real call for disclosure is the call for knowledge. It's a knowledge embargo.
You know, this whole thing is a mystery. And it's a mystery because we're not allowed to ask questions. We are not allowed to hear from the people that might know what's going on. So why is reality classified? That's the question. And that's the fight we're in.
So that's good pushback from UFO whistleblower Jeffrey Nusatelli to when someone says, well, we don't need disclosure. We can just watch documentaries. We can read books. We can listen to experiencer testimony. But the problem is, yes, we can do that, but can we actually ask questions? Can we ask questions to our president? Can we ask questions to our Air Force? Can we ask questions to our intelligence community? Can whistleblowers freely come forward to tell the public about what they know about this enigma? Can we request images that are held back by governments, including the United States government, that shows these technologies in our skies or even landing? Can we go to our universities and ask our teachers about this topic? Can we request a class to teach this topic? Can we have money flowing into investigating this topic? Can we have our innovators asking themselves, how can they duplicate this technology? No, we cannot. We cannot ask questions because we live under a cover-up. And society collectively treats this phenomena as if it's a child coming into their parents' bedroom at 3 a.m. and telling them, there's a monster under my bed. I saw it. And the parents are, oh, honey, it's just your imagination. And that is how we collectively treat the UFO topic. And as long as that persists, we will not make progress. We need disclosure. So filmmaker James Fox has a very interesting and compelling plan that he is going to institute in the beginning of 2026 to help facilitate UFO disclosure, UFO transparency.
So at this point, what does this disclosure even look like, right? Like, I feel like we would need some type of massive event because, there's photos that come out much later. There's all this, sort of circumstantial military evidence. What would it take for the average person to be like, yeah, of course?
Thought about that a lot. One of the things that we're going to do soon, very early next year, is we're going to have an event in Washington, D.C. with a number of firsthand witnesses, both American and Brazilian. And we're going to have them introduce themselves at the podium, speak for a few minutes, and then say, make a plea to the executive branch to provide immunity so they can violate their NDAs and participate in open congressional hearings, maybe on the Senate, the House, or both, and give the details needed to verify the following claims: street addresses, names, where the locations of some of this materials are. And then it's in the hands of the executive branch. If they want to do it and they want to push for transparency, like whatever you think of the current administration, they've got the power to do it. And they talk about wanting transparency and more openness. So, we're going to do that.
I assume that this event will be at the Washington Press Club because previous events have been there in the past when it comes to the UFO topic. I really like this approach by James Fox and whoever's going to end up being there, firsthand witnesses from America and Brazil, because it reminds the current administration that if they don't act and they allow the next administration the opportunity to disclose, that when historians look back, they're not going to see it as, well, who would have known, right? They're going to see it as, you had every opportunity based upon the environment to be the first administration ever from any government in the world to disclose the reality of non-human intelligences engaging our world, and you pass that up. That's something I think we should be reminding the Trump administration persistently. And I really believe that if the Trump administration fails to disclose, it's going to look really, really bad from a legacy standpoint.
I'm very curious what the government official reaction is going to be in the coming months to this film. I do know that leaders in our government are actively huddling right now.
Well, they can't piss on it. There are too many people involved.
That's a recent interview with director Dan Farah. He directed the movie The Age of Disclosure that launched on November 21st. Him, journalist Walter Kern, and UFO whistleblower David Grush have all stated that members of the Trump administration are in talks on how they're going to respond to the Age of Disclosure documentary. So let's see how that plays out, because I don't think they can just remain silent on the UFO topic for the remainder of the Trump administration's stay, and James Fox's event will only push that reality further. Weaponized Podcast recently spoke with Representative Anna Paulina Luna and Representative Eric Burleson. And this was one of George Knapp's takeaways from that conversation.
The third thing that comes out of this for me is they've actually kicked around the idea of not having more hearings because they're so frustrated. And until they get the powers they need to actually force people to come forward and testify, whether they're friendly or unfriendly witnesses, I think maybe they might be giving it a pause for a while. I hope not. In my sense, even though they're not getting all that they want, the fact that they hold the hearings at all is so supremely important. It tells the public in an non-direct way that this is an important issue. And it galvanizes public interest. And I would think it generates new witnesses.
I couldn't agree more with George Knapp on that. These hearings are official. They're not documentaries. They're not interviews. They are official government activities that give the testimony gravitas and show that this is a serious issue in a way that, frankly, I don't think documentaries or even news reports are capable of duplicating. So after 80 years of stigma promoted by the intelligence community, we're fighting an uphill battle because they made this topic into a laughingstock, into a circus. And one of the ways to diminish the after effects of that is to hold more hearings. And it informs the public of what people that are highly credible, highly cleared, were trusted with some of the United States government's most sensitive secrets have to say about this topic. So while I do want members of Congress to get the subpoena power they need to get the witnesses they want to testify, I still think people like Anna Luna Polina and Eric Burleson should aggressively pursue hearings, because the American public have a right to learn as much as they can about the UFO topic when the U.S. government is continuing to lie to the public about it.
I've spoken to people who the intelligence community has a level of credible belief that they have the ability to talk to, like mentally talk to some kind of entities. That was a conversation in my office that I'll never forget. I'm not saying that I believe everybody that I talk to.
Before I comment on Representative Eric Burleson's bombshell, I will inform you that last night, Jeremy Corbell wrote, "Catch up on last week's episode of Weaponized so you are ready for the drop this week. Remember when Representative Eric Burleson was talking about the intelligence community has the ability to talk to non-human entities with their mind? Well, get ready." So it looks like the next episode of Weaponized is going to go deeper into that sentiment that Burleson shared. But before that happens, and I look forward to it, I will give you my take. If any component of the U.S. government, whether it be the intelligence community or otherwise, has developed ways to communicate with non-human intelligences, or the non-human intelligences have pursued communication with any component of the government, that would potentially contradict the idea, which is very popular within the UFO community, that the government or aerospace corporations know just as little as the public do. I don't know about that if they're partaking in open communication at will that is sanctioned by the phenomena itself.
I want to ask you this. You're both aware of the film Age of Disclosure. The one thing that was new to me in that film was the statement by James Clapper, former DNI, admitting that the U.S. Air Force has had an ongoing UFO investigation, a UFO program. In one sense, that doesn't surprise me at all. But for him to say it on the record, that seems like that's something that Congress could pursue, should pursue. And Clapper needs to explain how this thing has been hidden, and the U.S. Air Force has to be called on the carpet to answer about that. Right?
I agree.
I
agree 100%. When they make a public disclosure like that, we need to call them on the carpet, and I would hope that we would get to the bottom of it.
Before I comment on that, I want to share with you a clip from Disclosure Foundation. On November 25th, just days after the Age of Disclosure launched, Chris Mellon publicly spoke about what former DNI James Clapper stated in the documentary. Let's hear what he had to say.
My name is Chris Mellon. I spent approximately 20 years in the U.S. intelligence community, both in the Defense Department and on Capitol Hill with the Senate Intelligence Committee. The other day, I had the opportunity to see the new UAP documentary, Age of Disclosure, and after reflecting on it, I prepared a few remarks that I hope will be of assistance to Congress. In the new UAP documentary, Age of Disclosure, we learn that the Air Force had a secret program to track UAP in the vicinity of Area 51 and other sensitive military facilities in the 1990s.
I think it's necessary to state that drone technology in the 90s was exceedingly limited. From my understanding, drones were very loud, very detectable. And so today, obviously, drones can be very sophisticated and confusing. But in the 90s, that wasn't the case. So when Clapper said that there was a UFO program investigating or monitoring UFOs over sensitive military installations in the 90s. He's not referring to drones, in my opinion. He's referring to anomalous craft.
This report comes from none other than General James Clapper, former director of U.S. Air Force Intelligence and former director of National Intelligence. Does that secret Air Force UAP program continue to this day? Where is the data? What did the Air Force learn? Moreover, why is it that when Congress asked the services for UAP information in their possession in the 2020 Intelligence Authorization Bill, the Air Force denied having any pertinent information other than a handful of very recent innocuous reports submitted after DoD guidance was finally issued in 2020, requiring all military components to report UAP sightings? In my view, the Air Force brass treat Congress with contempt, even if not in a strictly illegal manner. I also believe that the secret Air Force UAP program described by General Clapper, or another like it, remains quietly active behind the scenes.
After that, Mellon goes into why he thinks the program persists. I'll put a link to the entire presentation in the description. But yeah, I agree, and I agree with his analysis that you can check out with the full presentation, that this program likely continues. And James Clapper should be asked about that. Does it still continue? He should be brought to Congress. He should testify, even if it requires a subpoena, because the Air Force, after the close of Project Blue Book, said that they don't study UFOs anymore. Of course, that the U.S. government doesn't study UFOs anymore. Of course, we know that's not true because ATIP and OSAP were tax-funded programs, at least OSAP was in particular, that studied UFOs. And so I really like what George Knapp said. Why was Congress not told about this UFO program that DNI Clapper knew about? I mean, they are the people that are involved with oversight and where the money goes, so they should have been informed about this UFO program. And since Congress has been requesting more information on UFOs, why were they given zero information from this program? What did this program learn? What is going on? There are many significant events on the horizon for 2026. Let's briefly go over all of them that I'm aware of. Recently, Nancy Mace said that she wants to get into a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, based on her seeing Marco Rubio in the age of disclosure, which makes perfect sense because Marco Rubio made extraordinary claims or comments about the UFO topic, and he's the Secretary of State. So yeah, Nancy Mace should get into a SCIF with him and see what he knows. Also, Representative Eric Burleson said that he is speaking with a new UFO whistleblower. I'll quote what journalist Matt Laszlo condensed regarding what Burleson said to Matt Laszlo. Right now, we're focused on getting some people in a SCIF who would not be comfortable at this time going public. Representative Eric Burleson exclusively tells Ask a Poll, UAP. There's one person that's a new whistleblower that we have a lead on that might go public. So that's exciting. We'll keep our eyes peeled. And then Representative Andy Ogles also told journalist Matt Laszlo there's supposed to be a hearing coming up. Doesn't know when, but it should be pretty soon, maybe sometime in January. On June 12th, we have Steven Spielberg's upcoming film that will drop, Disclosure Day. James Fox's movie, Moment of Contact, New Revelations of Alien Encounters, came out just now. I bought it. I'm going to watch it. And then also the event that James Fox spoke about at the National Press Club, where firsthand witnesses from the United States and Brazil will come forward and meet at the National Press Club and ask the Trump administration to remove their NDAs so they can speak publicly about what they know. And then, of course, we've heard from 3 separate people, as I relayed earlier, journalist Walter Kern, director Dan Farah, and UFO whistleblower David Grush, that the Trump administration is preparing on how to respond to the film The Age of Disclosure.
I think it's exciting to see any mainstream movie director looking at the issue of disclosure. And I sincerely hope it pushes the narrative further towards encouraging President Trump to be more open.
He's referring to Spielberg's upcoming film Disclosure Day that will drop on June 12th. And I have the same hope. I'm hoping that even though this is a creative project, a fiction project, that it will still spread awareness of the need for UFO transparency and put further pressure on the Trump administration to comment on the topic and to be transparent with the public so that we can know whether we're alone in the universe or not, which imagine holding that back from the public. It's so utterly insane. 2026 should be very interesting. If you haven't subscribed yet, you really should. That would be a good way to prepare for 2026. Please do not forget to subscribe, because if you'd like to support the channel, you can become a patron, you can become a YouTube member, you can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy, and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Special thanks to all contributors, those who've bought merch, those who've given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do it without you. Thank you so much, and see you in the next episode.